Falaflayatu, good evening. Niue's police had their hands full over the weekend as 3 vehicle accidents happened over 48 hours. Acting Chief of Police Brent Ioane said he can confirm that there were 3 accidents but could not elaborate on the cause of the accidents as of yet. However, witnesses of one accident said the first accident that landed the driver in hospital was so serious and the young driver lucky to be alive. Motor vehicle speeding and negligent driving continue to feature prominently during Niue's local courts. A very early disappointment for old folks around the island last Friday is finally over yesterday. Last Friday, many of the old folks around the island who received their pension arrived early Friday morning just to be told they will not receive their fortnightly pension and will have to wait till Monday. Some of the old folks said it was a bit disappointing, especially leading up to the weekend, but there was nothing they could do about the incident. Representatives for the Treasury Department said there was some issues with the transactions, but confirmed old folks will receive their payments on Monday. Needless to say, many of the old folks were relieved yesterday morning when they finally received their pension. Building a National Disaster Management Office is a step forward for Niue in efforts to address climate change issues. At a meeting in Fiji, Niue's Secretary to Government Richard Hipper said their disaster office work was looked after by the Department of Police. He led Niue's delegation to this week's 4th Pacific Climate Change Roundtable 2013 in Nadi, Fiji. He is the former chair of the PCCR. He said Niue is establishing a NDMO office, which we do not have at the moment. We are going to have a standalone office. We already have the design for the office and job descriptions, and we have very limited capacity, and the new office will accelerate our climate change and disaster risk programs and ease our workloads. Hipper said members of the Disaster Management Council have their own full-time jobs, but they stretch their responsibilities to also deal with the climate change issues and cyclone season preparations. Hipper also talked about Niue's Joint National Action Plan on Climate Change Adaptation and Disaster Risk Management, with the inclusion of earthquakes, tsunami and droughts, whereas before it was only based largely on cyclones. This week, Niue's Quarantine Division has issued an advisory into an Oriental Fruit Fly outbreak in the Cook Islands and are warning travellers not to bring fruits or vegetables from the Cook Islands. The Oriental Fruit Fly is native to the Asian continent that is also present in Hawaii and French Polynesia. The pest was identified in the Cook Islands in May of this year and has been described as a destructive pest of fruit and vegetables with a host of range of over 117 plant species. Ministry of Agriculture Cook Islands have immediately intensified fruit fly trapping with 3 methods of eradication in Rarotonga that include crop hygiene and sanitation, male annihilation blocks and protein bait spraying. Quarantine officer for Niue Quarantine Division, New Testament Aware, says that this is a precautionary advisory for people to be aware of and to not introduce this pest to the island, as it would greatly affect our agricultural sector. Meanwhile, travellers to the Cook Islands have been cautioned to be careful of what they bring back to Niue. In addition to that, yachts and vessels coming from Cook Islands have also been advised to ensure that they have no fruit or vegetables on board when entering Niue's territorial waters, or to utilise their fruits and vegetables in advance of arriving close to Niue. Quarantine Niue will be taking all precautionary measures to ensure that this pest does not reach our shores, as it has a great potential to affect our fledgling agricultural sector. If there are any uncertainties about the Oriental Fruit Fly and quarantine requirements, people can contact the Quarantine Division directly at the Department of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries. The first joint meeting of the Pacific Platform for Disaster Risk Management opened on Monday at the Sofitel Resort in Nadi, Fiji. With this meeting, the Pacific region has achieved a world first by bringing together the two principal regional conferences on disaster risk management and climate change. The joint meeting will contribute to the formulation of an overarching regional strategy and framework for climate and disaster resilient development to be considered for endorsement by the Pacific Islands Forum leaders in 2015. An integrated approach to addressing disaster risk reduction and climate change concerns will mean better use of national and regional capacities and resources to address the risks posed by hazards, whether they are extreme weather events such as cyclones and droughts, or slow onset events such as rising sea levels or ocean acidification associated with climate change. The strategy will further progress the agenda of enabling the Pacific Islands region to build resilience to our changing climate. The meeting, hosted and chaired by the Government of Fiji, is jointly convened by the Secretariat of the Pacific Community, the Secretariat of the Pacific Regional Environment Program, and the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction. The last meeting of the Pacific Climate Change Roundtable took place in Niue 2 years ago in 2011. That concludes our news bulletin for tonight. We do hope you can join us again for our next news bulletin on Thursday.